And here with us today, we have Eric van der Waal. He is joining us here inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Yesterday, we spoke with Jerry Jason, the flight director, uh, lead for the launch of the automated transfer vehicle. And so Eric is actually here. He is with the European Space Agency as a program representative. Thank you, Eric, and welcome.
Thank you.
Um, so everything now remains on track for the launch of the on the Ariane 5 rocket, correct?
That's
So
correct.
we are
We're on track and we're green for launch tomorrow night.
great. And so first, let me just talk to you. We talked about operations, as I mentioned. We talked with Jerry Jason yesterday, and so now I would like to just talk a little about yourself. Tell me where you're from, and how did you make your way to the European Space Agency?
Well, I'm French. Name is Eric van der Waal. I joined the European Space Agency in 1991. Worked in operation, system development, and finally ended up after 20 years here in Houston as a representative to the ISS program for ESA. Um, I've been doing this job now for 10 years. Um, have been there from the beginning of the developments of our Columbus laboratory and all the payloads we have launched ever since, and truly enjoyed it.
Great. So now let's just go ahead and talk. As the program representative, what is your role with the Automated Transfer Vehicle 3?
The role with the ATV is very similar to the generic role I have, and that is to provide a liaison function in terms of program management for all the interaction we have with the ISS program, uh, with the ATV being an integral part of the ISS. Um, the In the operations part, I provide assistance to the operations management functions we have in Europe um, during the flight and the preparation for the flight of ATV.
Okay. And tell me real quick, what is the significance of ATV-3, this particular vehicle, as opposed to the others that have gone before?
Well, this is the third vehicle in a series of 5 vehicles which we're going to launch. Um, the importance of ATV for us is to have an independent access to the ISS, and this is something we achieve in combination with our launch of the Iron 5 in Kourou. Um, it's politically and operationally very important to us to have that access. And then, secondly, we're using the ATV flights as a payment in kind to offset our common system operation cost, which every partner shares on the ISS. And this flight will be a contribution to that offset.
Okay. And so talk to me a little about the naming convention. It is Eduardo Amaldi. How did we get that name?
We we're trying to honor scientists or visionaries in Europe which have contributed to the technical and scientific and cultural progress which Europe is going through. And for the first ATV, we picked the name Jules Verne, which is a French author and visionary, which I think everybody knows. The second ATV was chosen to be called Johannes Kepler, a German astronomer and mathematician, which is very well known for his laws of planetary motion. Now, the third ATV is an Italian, Eduardo Amaldi. He is from the 20th century, passed away in 1989. He he was not only a nuclear physicist, he excelled and pioneered in the 1970s when he was doing research on gravitational waves. But what was very important is that, similar to all the other ones, they have in some way contributed to the European spaceflight we know today. And Eduardo Amaldi, in the late 1950s, actually was one of the pioneers which came up with the idea that we needed to cooperate inside Europe and create a joint agency for spaceflight, which eventually became the European Space Agency today.
Wow, fascinating. So tell me a little more about the history. You mentioned the naming conventions of the other two ATV vehicles, but can you explain to me some of the, how the development came about and that sort of thing? Just some history of ATV vehicles.
Um, we started in with a project and conceptually a very long time ago to think about ATVs and having something to provide resupply to the ISS, not only to our Columbus module and our payloads, but something which the entire station could make use of. That's how the idea of the ATV was born. The ATV itself is making use of hardware and concepts which we had developed for MPLM and the Columbus module. So once the ATV was born, we had to find a way to meet the resupply demands of the space station and have a significant amount of ATVs, enough so that we could offset our common system operation cost. That's how we ended up with the number of ATVs we have today. The first ATV flew in 2008, which is about 4 years ago. We regularly try to fly an ATV once a year. There needs to be at least a year between two ATVs.
Okay. So explain to me, you mentioned the Columbus module. Just explain to me a little about Europe's contributions to the International Space Station.
Okay, so the ATV, in terms of ATV, the ATV can resupply the station. So we provide a service. There's two parts to that. First, we can, the ATV has the capability to launch up to 4,000 kilograms of propellant, and I'll come back to that. We can launch water, we can launch gases like nitrogen, oxygen, and we can launch dry cargo. A trade-off is made between all those elements to make sure that we have the right amount of propellant versus the right amount of dry cargo, and that we're not exceeding our maximum loading. Eduardo Amaldi will carry more than 6.5 tons of cargo. The advantage we have with ATV is that once we arrive on the station, we remain docked for 6 months. Being docked for 6 months allows the crew to basically use what's in the ATV as needed, and at the same time get rid of some of the trash which exists in the ISS, which is one other thing that ATV will do is upon its departure, it will bring down on more than 6 tons of trash, and which will be then destructed in the re-entry of the ATV. Once we're attached, there's another service we provide to the station, and that's where all this propellant comes into play. We carry propellant which we transfer directly to the Russian segment, but we also have propellant which we use for propulsive support of the ISS stack, which means we will support reboost of the entire ISS stack. We will support debris avoidance maneuvers, and as needed, we can perform attitude control maneuvers of the station using ATV thrusters. So there is a kind of a large role the ATV has in the ISS, and for us operationally and again politically, it's very important that we have this independent access and that there are different vehicles that the ISS can rely on.
Sure. But so it not only is bringing up cargo, it also is going to add some space and also deliver trash back.
That's a very good point. Once the ATV is attached to the space station, it becomes an integral part of the ISS volume. With the ATV, the pressurized compartment of the ATV adds about 50 cubic meters of volume to the ISS.
And can you explain about what size is that? Just something that we can relate to here.
How big? I would say it's something we can relate to. It's a bit hard to say, but it's a bit smaller than the Columbus module, but that's what we're looking at.
Okay, great. And the size of a double-decker bus, I think is what we've just heard. We actually have a diagram that's out right now. So real quick, also, we have a question for you that came to us from Twitter, and we'll go ahead and ask that one for you now. This comes to us from Data Chick. We want to know, what sort of items will ATV-3 bring to the ISS?
Okay, so I I don't have a detailed list of what we're bringing inside in terms of dry cargo. The dry cargo itself consists of science resupply.
Mm-hmm.
There is logistic and maintenance. There is resupply items for the crew.
Mm-hmm.
There's a variety of what we call dry cargo, which are items which are packed in bags and loaded in the ATV. The ATV has 8 racks in which we can fill out all that cargo. In addition to this cargo, we are bringing up a amount of propellant which we will use for the propulsive support. That's more than 2 tons. More than 3 tons, sorry. There's more than 2 tons of dry cargo. We will bring up some water, about 280 kilograms of water. We will bring up propellant to refuel the Russian segment tanks, because I think it's all well known that the ATV docks to the service module aft port of the Russian segment. There will be about 800, almost 900 kilograms. And so let me see. And then we will bring up some gases, about 100 kilograms, to resupply the station.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time here, and we really do appreciate all your work. And I guess you'll be around for the launch of ATV-3 as well, following along.
I'll be here tomorrow night.
Absolutely great. Thank you
Thank you very
again.
much.